The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but freed people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay?
Come on.
You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations.
I had no idea that church I was running by every day was something my grandfather established.
This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million. And then of that, the Descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Overnight, it's like, oh, it's no longer the quarters, now it's Lincoln Heights. Oh, so now we get to use Abraham Lincoln for our name. And you think about all the other people that they could have used, but they picked Lincoln. And I think that's sort of stereotypical of what they do.
There wasn't any black restaurants. As far as black business and weed, it wasn't none.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Why has it been easier for other groups than us?
Because of anti-black hatred.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR room, don't tune in.
Welcome everyone. This is the Min Mass Media Group, and this is In the News segment. I just need to make sure my microphone is working. All right, the microphone is working. We are good to go. Thanks everyone for joining, family. A lot is going on in the news today, but before we actually get into what's going on internationally and domestically, let's do a little in-house keeping, shall we? Please go to ETN Media Group store. That's etnmediagroupstore.com to get your latest merch as well in the description. I know y'all shop at Amazon, so hit that affiliate link. Help to support this platform. We would greatly appreciate it. And as you saw the trailer right now on Tubi, free on Tubi, or you can go to reparationsnowdoc.com to see behind the footage. That's reparationsnowdoc.com as well as Tubi, and that is Reparations Now, the documentary. All right, if you have yet to see the December 2nd Senate floor hearing in California, the legislation had a special session both in the Senate floor as well as in the Assembly floor. You can go view that, and I believe those links are in the description as well. And I highly recommend everybody watching those two. And even though we're going to be going over the Senate and the Assembly later, probably early next year, because we're probably going to be taking a little hiatus in mid-December to the end of December, the end of the year. Definitely look at those two videos, because those videos are the ones, or the Assembly and the Senate, those legislatures are going to be the people that are going to be voting on reparations here in California. As a matter of fact, I do have a video, and I want to give a shout out to our good brother Antonio Harvey. And it looks like he did cover a reparations conference that was held in Sacramento as well on December 2nd. So this is a clip, and I also put the link in the description as well, so you can check the full video and the press conference and that link in the description. But let's just take a clip. I've got a clip here. One second. Here we go.
United Nations standards for reparations are not paraded around to be anything more than what they actually are, which is just bills. We will not allow civil rights that our living relatives and departed ancestors fought for to be applied to all other populations and not ours. If you are an immigrant, a First Nation person, Choctaw Freedman, Cherokee Freedman, Seminole Freedman, Creek Freedman, or Chickasaw Freedman, we call on you to stand united with us. Our population in California is dwindling. We do not have 10 more years. The time is now. And all inquiries can be sent via email to reparationscollective@gmail.com. Thank you.
This one, my last question was last subject, two bills that didn't make it to the floor. How important, yes. How important, Sharice, that is to, to make those bills priorities, this legislative session?
You have to have a foundation for reparations. You just can't throw them out or throw ideas out and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You need to do things decent and in order. And the irony is we're standing here in front of the Native American monument, and the COPPA bill, SB 1403, was supposed to be modeled after the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the relationship between the state tribal entity and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So you need that foundation. We need a bureau to manage our affairs, to manage any reparations payments, even if it's not cash, even though that is top priority for me.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was Concert Jones Muhammad speaking in the first half of the clip, and the second part of it was Sharice Cryer. Friday, if you saw, she was actually featured in a Reparations Now documentary, and she's doing a great job. She's been on boots on the ground since day one out here in California, as well as Sharice Cryer. So shout out to them. I'm glad they were there, as well as the two brothers there in the background having that press conference. All right, so actually let's get into it. And let's see, let's go with BRICS. All right, so why is Trump threatening 100% tariff on the BRICS nations? President-elect Donald Trump on November 30th threatened to slap a 100% tariff on a group of 9 nations, the so-called BRICS. If they tried to replace the US dollar with another currency, would a BRICS currency threaten the dollar? The BRICS countries include Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Okay, so that's BRICS. Okay, so once again, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And others include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Trump said he'll enact the tariffs if the countries either move to create a new rival currency to the dollar or back an alternative currency to replace the greenback as the world's reserve medium of exchange. Quote, we require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy, quote, Trump said on Truth Social. Trump's move comes after he recently threatened to impose 25% tariffs on all products from Canada and Mexico entering the US, along with an additional 10% tax on goods from China, and what he says would force the countries to do more to halt the flow of unauthorized migrants and illicit drugs into the US. Would a BRICS currency threaten the dollar? Creating a competing new currency would be difficult, given how widely used the dollar is to conduct business around the world, despite the existence of the euro and growing importance of China's renminbi. The dollar remains the world's main reserve currency, representing roughly 58% of the world's foreign exchange reserves. According to the MIF, also critical commodities like oil and gold are still mostly bought and sold using dollars. Quote, economically, it's not a major issue because the idea of the BRICS countries being able to put together an alternative as a reserve currency for the US dollar is not plausible in the short or intermediate term, end quote, said Mark Weinstock, a global trade expert and professor of economics at Pace University. All right, the article continues with stiff tariffs on BRICS goods, what that means for the US consumers. While economics largely agree that a 100% tariff on goods imported to the US from BRICS nations is a long shot, if it came to pass, the move would not benefit US consumers, they say. Such levies would drive up the cost of goods from BRICS member nations, potentially fueling inflation and leading to higher prices for consumers. Like any tariffs, this would mean higher prices for consumers, Weinstock says. That's always the impact of the tariff. Among the leading products the US gets from BRICS countries are coffee from Brazil, electronics and clothes from China, and minerals from South Africa, according to trade data. Why are some economics criticizing Trump for threatening the BRICS? Some experts criticize Trump's threat to punish the BRICS, saying it makes the US look weak. Quote, it isn't a good look as it indirectly elevates the stature of a non-threat and suggests a lack of confidence in the dollar, Brad Chester, a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and former Treasury Department economics, wrote on X. Trump's threat could actually accelerate a move away from the dollar by other countries, according to Chester, who said that an effort to effectively coerce countries to use the dollar is actually a long-run threat to the dollar's global role. It makes the use of the dollar appear to be a favor to the US, he added. Also, it looks like Trump is, let's see, I think I have a video here of Trump. Yeah, so it looks like Trump in his first day of office is supposedly wanting to pardon some people that had the insurrection on January 6th. I do have a video here, so let's go.
I asked the president-elect if he plans to follow through on his campaign promise to pardon those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, including the more than 900 people who pleaded guilty to crimes.
I'm going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there, how long is it? 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
You know, by the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
Well, there you go. Also in international news, Vietnamese tycoon loses death row appeal over world's biggest bank fraud. Vietnamese property tycoon Truong My Lan has lost her appeal against her death sentence for masterminding the world's biggest bank fraud. The 60-year-old is now in a race for her life because the law in Vietnam states that if she can pay back 75% of what she took, her sentence will be commuted to life imprisonment. In April, the trial court found that Truong My Lan had secretly controlled Saigon Commercial Bank, the country's 5th largest lender, and taken out loans and cash over more than 10 years through a web of shell companies, amounting to a total of $44 billion. Damn. Of that, prosecutors say $27 billion was misappropriated, and $12 billion was judged to have been embezzled, the most serious financial crime for which she was sentenced to death. It was a rare and shocking verdict. She is one of the very few women in Vietnam to be sentenced to death for a white-collar crime. On Tuesday, the court said there was no basis to reduce Truong My Lan's death sentence. However, she could still avoid execution if she returns $9 billion, 3/4 of the $12 billion she embezzled. It's not her final appeal, and she could still petition the president for amnesty. During her trial, Truong My Lan was sometimes defiant, but in the recent hearings for her appeal against the sentence, she was more, let's see, what does it say? Her appeal against the sentence, she was more contrite. All right. So for those, contrite means that she was more appealing. She was more willing to work with, I guess, maybe the hearings. All right. Let's move on, shall we? Joe Biden. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden. After Hunter Biden's pardon, White House considers broader clemency. The White House is listening to demands for President Joe Biden to extend the same grace to thousands of people wronged by the U.S. judicial system as he did to his son Hunter, officials say. Since Biden's pardon of Hunter on Sunday, a growing chorus of civil rights activists and lawmakers have called for broader clemency for other people they believe were unfairly convicted or sentenced. Defense attorneys and civil rights groups are ramping up efforts to highlight compelling cases, working in conjunction with state legislators to draft letters to the White House and launching digital campaigns urging action to commute sentences or issue pardons for Americans they believe are wrongly convicted or serving excessive terms for nonviolent offenses. Quote, there's going to be more to speak to in the upcoming weeks, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said on Friday, when asked about the demands and the disparity of Black men often faced in the U.S. justice system. She noted the president's pardon of marijuana convictions and other commutations in the past. He's taking this very seriously. She said Hunter Biden was awaiting sentencing in 2 federal cases. He faced up to 25 years in prison in the gun case and 17 years in the tax case. Here's a statement from President Joe Biden. This is White House briefing press release here. It says, and this isn't the full one, but if you want to go to the whitehouse.gov, you can actually read his full statement, but I'm just reading the first paragraph. It says, today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter from the day I took office. I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted without aggravating? Yes, aggravating. Let's get it right here. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions, but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties, are typically given non-criminal solutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. Okay, so this is very interesting because I don't know, maybe if he didn't, and I'm talking about President Joe Biden, maybe if he didn't come out and say, hey, yeah, I wouldn't pardon him, maybe people wouldn't have such backlash that is happening right now throughout social media and other media. But he did say it. As a matter of fact, we do have a clip in President Joe Biden's response. So let's actually play that clip to see what he had to say. This is an interview, I believe, with, let's see. I'm not going to say the news who did it, but let's just watch it. Here we go.
We sit here in Normandy. Your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
All right, so obviously that was an ABC News interview with Joe Biden. So, hey, he said what he said. And so, yes, so he's looking to pardon his son, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden. All right. More news. Gunman who killed Brian Thompson, United Healthcare CEO, is on the loose. I guess this is the latest update. If anybody else has something else more up to date, please put in the comments if you're listening to this or not. I don't know on the replay, but anyway, let's go. Manhunt is continuing Friday for the gunman who shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson 2 days earlier in what authorities said appeared to have been a targeted attack. A New York City hostel where photos were taken of a person of interest with his mask pulled down as he talked to a woman at the front desk is now at the center of the investigation. New York police interviewed the woman who told officers she asked to see his pretty smile. A high-ranking source told CBS News. A person similar with the matter told CBS News on December 6th that investigators believe the person of interest was no longer in New York City. The person of interest may have boarded a bus at a Manhattan bus terminal bound for Atlanta, the person familiar said. Joseph Kinney, the NYPD's chief of detectives, told reporters in a December 6th briefing that investigators don't know what bus the man may have taken. Also on December 6th, the New York Police Department said it found a backpack in Central Park that was being analyzed to determine if it belonged to the suspected gunman in the shooting. The FBI, which is assisting the NYPD in its investigation, is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. Also in New York, it looks like a jury is considering lesser charges in a subway chokehold case that judge dismisses manslaughter charge. The judge overseeing the trial of a man accused of using a deadly chokehold on an unruly New York subway passenger dismissed the top charge in the case on Friday at prosecutors' request, allowing jurors to consider a lesser count after they deadlocked on whether Daniel Penny was guilty of manslaughter. Judge Maxwell Wiley's decision will let jurors deliberate a charge of criminally negligent homicide, which carries a lighter punishment. Quote, whether that makes any difference or not, I have no idea, but I'm going to direct you to focus your deliberations on count 2, he said, before directing them to go home and think about something else. The judge's decision came hours after Manhattan jurors sent him a note saying they couldn't agree on a manslaughter verdict. Jurors previously were instructed that they needed to reach a verdict on the top charge before they could consider the lesser count. Jurors have been deliberating since Tuesday on whether to convict Penny in the death of Jordan Neely. Penny, a former U.S. Marine, placed Neely in a chokehold for about 6 minutes on a New York City subway in May 2023 after Neely got on the car yelling and asking people for money. All right, I'm not going to play that clip, but if you haven't seen it and you do want to see it, I'm sure it's still out there somewhere on the internet. But yeah, so basically, as you can see, that person on the screen did choke this brother out. So, all right. See what else is in the news. FBI warns iPhone and Android users stop sending texts. Timing is everything. Just as Apple's adoption of RCS had seemed to signal a return to text messaging versus the unstoppable growth of WhatsApp, then along comes a surprising new hurdle to stop that in its tracks. While messaging Android to Android or iPhone to iPhone is secure, messaging from one to the other is not. Let me repeat. While messaging Android to Android or iPhone to iPhone is secure, messaging from one to the other is not. Now, even the FBI and CISA, the U.S. Cyber Defense Agency, are warning Americans to use responsibly encrypted messaging in phone calls where they can. The backdrop is the Chinese hacking of U.S. networks that is reportedly ongoing and likely larger in scale than previously understood. Fully encrypted comms is the best defense against this compromise, and Americans are urged to use that wherever possible. Also on some federal news, here's where police are being investigated for excessive force, discrimination, and other allegations. A U.S. Justice Department investigation into the Memphis Police Department after the beating death of Tyree Nichols found a pattern of unlawful use of excessive force and discrimination against the black residents of the majority black city in Tennessee. The Memphis case is one of 12 similar investigations of state and local law enforcement agencies opened by the DOJ since April 2021. Many have been in response to high-profile deaths at the hands of police, including George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. The 5 other completed investigations all found patterns of illegal police practices. This also includes law enforcement scandals in Phoenix, Arizona, civil rights violations in Lexington, Mississippi, and excessive force in Trenton, New Jersey, and that's just to name a few. All right, if you go to ITNewz.com, you can find more information on this police misconduct federal investigation story that's happening. Navy Academy's use of race in admissions upheld by judge. The U.S. Naval Academy's practice of using race as a factor in admissions passes constitutional muster. A Maryland federal judge ruled in a blow to the conservative legal group behind the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark order outlawing affirmative action in higher education. Judge Richard Bennett of the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland ruled against Students for Fair Admissions, SFFA, which argued the Annapolis, Maryland-based Naval Academy's admissions practices violate the Fifth Amendment by giving racial minority students an edge. The group, founded by affirmative action foe Edward Blum, accused the government of lacking any legal jurisdiction for its admissions policy, which currently seeks to have a student body that reflects the makeup of society generally. Quote, this court concludes that the Naval Academy's race-conscious admissions program withstands the strict scrutiny in the ambit of the Supreme Court's opinion in the Harvard case, said Bennett, an appointee of former President George W. Bush, who served over 2 decades in the U.S. Army Reserve and the Maryland National Guard. The program serves strict scrutiny because the Naval Academy has established a compelling national security interest in a diverse officer corps in the Navy and Marine Corps, he wrote. Well, let's go to Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Chicago residents rip mayor over spending on migrants. Quote, worst mayor in America. Residents of Chicago are blasting Mayor Brandon Johnson over the city spending more than $500 million on sheltering migrants, with one telling the Democrat to his face during a city council meeting that he's the worst mayor in America. The criticism surrounding Johnson and Chicago's new arrivals mission, which so far has cost the city $574.5 million since its inception in August 2022, comes as the mayor is trying to overcome a $1 million budget shortfall by the end of the year. The city council held a meeting Monday during which residents voiced their opposition to an approximately $60 million property tax increase, floated as one way to help close the gap. We have some video here right now in response to the mayor, Brandon Johnson in Chicago. There's actually 2 clips, so let's play the first one.
Okay, so I got a great way how we can what we can do with this budget. First, let's start with cutting off illegals, getting free everything. Free housing, free schooling, free food. Yeah, let's start with that. That'll save us a lot of money. What, $600 million? Let's start there. Then let's start with your salary. You are going down in history as the worst mayor in America. Let's start with cutting yours. You making too much money. Let's start there. And now let's start with the police detail you had, the 200 police detail you had. Let's start with that. Because you Democrats, and you remember you told us to defund the police. Remember, you ran on that. Remember, you was to defund the police. Let's start with that. Let's defund the police detail that you have. And let's put the police back in our neighborhood, because we're not for defunding the police. We need the police. So let's start with all the Democrats, because y'all policy, what y'all push in our neighborhood, defund the police. So all y'all that got police details and got police presence around y'all house, let's start with cutting that. That'll save a lot of money.
In addition, it looks like there is a lawsuit as well. This is a Fox News clip of a Fox News interview. So let's go check it out.
President Katja Truss has sued Chicago over its handling or mishandling of the migrant crisis. She joins us now. Katja, thanks so much for taking time with us. I want to get first your reaction to Mayor Brandon Johnson's comments about illegal immigration. What he seems to be saying, essentially, is he's going to continue to protect illegal immigrants in the city from federal agents, despite the law, despite the incoming agenda of the Trump administration. What do you say about that?
Well, what we're seeing is here in the state of Illinois, you're seeing with Mayor Brandon Johnson as well as Governor Pritzker that they're going to dig their heels in, because both of them are having trouble reading the room. Both of them are having trouble looking at the voter turnout, looking at the numbers of people who voted Republican. And not all of those people voted Republican because they were supporters of President Trump. A lot of them voted Republican simply because they did not like these policies that the Democratic Party is pushing. And so I think that instead of digging their heels in, especially in the midst of the budget crisis that we're in here in both the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, I think that the mayor as well as Governor Pritzker really need to sit down and be quiet and take a back seat, because you have to think about this. Funding for the police department essentially has come from the federal government, and we cannot afford to not be in President Trump's good graces with the financial situation that we're in this city. And so to dig his heels in, if anybody is hurting Black families and residents of the city of Chicago, it is Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, what does that sister say? Her shirt says, Chicago flips red. All right, also another Fox News article. This is from Yahoo. It says, incoming Missouri state lawmaker introduces bill to give $1,000 to anyone who turns in illegal migrants. Republican State Senator-elect David Gregory proposed a measure that would offer $1,000 to any person who turned in an illegal migrant who is subsequently arrested. SB 72 would allow the state's Department of Public Safety to develop an information system for people to report violations of this act, which shall include a toll-free telephone hotline, email, and online reporting portal. The bill also would create the Missouri Illegal Alien Certified Bounty Hunter Program, which would allow local citizens to serve as bounty hunters for the purpose of finding and detaining illegal aliens in the state. Only bail bond agents and surety recovery agents may apply to the program to serve as bounty hunters. The proposal would also make it a felony for anyone to be in the state as an illegal migrant. Let's continue. Uber, Lyft drivers announce formation of a new app drivers union. Thousands of rideshare drivers in Massachusetts have signed cards signaling their intent to join a union once a new law goes into effect next month. Rideshare drivers were given the ability to unionize through the passage of Question 3 on an election ballot in November. Just under 54% of voters supported it. Proponents of the measure, which included Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and Attorney General Andrea Campbell, argue that drivers need immediate workplace protections. Other Other labor advocates, however, were more divided. With the approval of question 3, organizers needed to collect signatures from at least 25% of active drivers or those who have completed more than the median number of rides in the past 6 months. While they did not provide specific numbers, those affiliated with the union are confident that they have enough signatures to begin the process of forming a union. Lawmakers were planning to certify the ballot question Wednesday, and drivers will be able to vote on officially joining a union in January. All right, let's move on to some news out here in California. Sacramento City Council approves historic resolutions to advance racial equity and reparations. Sacramento City Council unanimously approved 2 historic resolutions Tuesday to address racial equity and reparations. The resolutions plan to embed racial equity into city operations and expand reparations efforts from a mayoral initiative to a citywide program. The first resolution will integrate racial equity into Sacramento's culture and decision-making, continuing the city's effort to confront its history of systemic racism. The goal is to create tangible benefits for all residents and foster partnership and accountability between the government and the community. The resolution also introduces initiatives like the creation of a racial equity action plan by 2026. In partnership with the city, 6 organizations serve the Black and African American community to gauge support for local reparations. Of the 510 responses, 80% expressed support for reparations, while about 20% opposed the idea. Quote, "We are owed reparations," said Chris Lodson, a member of the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, CJEC, and a descendant of a person formerly enslaved in the United States. "It is a debt that's owed. It's not a handout, a gift, or grant. We are owed it." All right, shout out to Chris Lodson of CJEC. As a matter of fact, if you go on to Emin the Mass Media Group, we actually put up the section where they went over the reparations revolution. Freudian slip, resolution. The reparations resolution on our platform. So if you have a chance, I highly suggest you check it out there. Unemployment rate jumps more than a percentage point for Black women in November. The unemployment rate climbed sharply for Black women in November. The overall jobless rate edged up slightly last month to 4.2% from 4.1% in October, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics on Friday. But some groups experienced more significant rises in unemployment relative to others. Black women experienced the most significant increase, with the jobless rate surging to 6% from 4.9%. In comparison, the jobless rate for white women ticked up slightly to 3.4% compared to 3.3% in October. Slightly. Well, got some positive news here. Quote, "Decide what you want and go after it," end quote. Single mom passes her bar exam on the first try. This was in Sacramento, California. A single mom from Sacramento, California found out she passed the bar exam on the first try. Her reaction has since gone viral on TikTok. It was a raw, tear-filled reaction for Rihanna Gordon, and after seeing the results that she passed the California bar exam on her first try. "You can be anything and decide what you want and go for it," Gordon said. Well, congratulations to Rihanna Gordon for doing such a wonderful job and passing the bar exam in California. So definitely congratulations to her. Black Church Coalition demands MSNBC probe Harrison campaign's payments to Sharpton Group. The National Black Church Initiative demanded Tuesday that MSNBC investigate disbursements from Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign to an organization that Al Sharpton, one of the network's hosts, leads. NBCI, which describes itself as a coalition of African American churches, raised the question in a Facebook post of whether the campaign paid Sharpton to receive favorable treatment from him during the vice president's interview with the civil rights activist in October. Reverend Sharpton does not have a degree in journalism, and it undermines the career of Black men and women who have more experience in journalism integrity, the post reads. The National Black Church Initiative demands that MSNBC launch an investigation into the donation or payment by the Harris campaign. Harris for President gave $250,000 as a contribution to civil rights organization National Action Network, NAN, for which Sharpton serves as president on September 5th. According to Federal Election Commission records, the data shows that the Harris campaign donated the same amount on October 1st. Sharpton interviewed the vice president on October 20th. MSNBC aired that interview. Quote, this payment calls into question Reverend Sharpton, a host on MSNBC Journalism Ethics. And quote, NBCI wrote in its post, do you have to pay Al Sharpton through a donation to his organization to get on his show or get a favorable interview? That's a question. California bill would allow public university admission priority for slaves' descendants. A California lawmaker introduced a bill Monday to allow admission priority to the descendants of slaves at the University of California and California State University, two of the largest public university systems in the nation. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, a Democrat who represents parts of Los Angeles and authored the legislation, said it would help rectify past and current discrimination at universities. Quote, for decades, universities gave preferential admission treatment to donors and their family members, while others tied to legacies of harm were ignored and at times outright excluded, Bryan told the Associated Press. We have a moral responsibility to do all we can to right those wrongs. Lawmakers also convened a special session Monday to consider ways to protect the state's progressive policies ahead of President-elect Donald Trump's second term. AB post-secondary education admissions preference descendants of slavery. Okay, so that is AB 7 for those who are interested in the bill. We actually will be tracking this. Currently, it looks pretty slim in terms of what's currently being in the legislation itself. But as time goes forth, me and the Mass Media Group will be tracking this because, hey, we figure that, whatever quote unquote bill is coming out for, as this article is saying, slave descendants, it needs to be tangibles with that. All right. Let's see what else. Okay. This Thursday, December 12th, we're going to be hosting, along with Divine Prince of the U.S. Freedmen Project. Shout out to Divine Prince. They're going to be having a panel discussion with Naeem Way, Ross Mickens, Greg Marcel Dixon, Chris Lodgson, and Ernest Russell. It's going to be titled, What's Next, Black America? As we approach the new year, it's crucial to examine the current state of Black America, focusing on political dynamics, reparations efforts, and grassroots activism in the aftermath of the 2024 election. All right, so it's going to be right here on the Mass Media Group. Please do not miss it. They're going to have a great discussion. We're just going to be hosting the platform. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to December 12th. It's going to be at 7 p.m. right here on the Mass Media Group. And once again, it's going to be a great discussion, a wonderful discussion. And that's actually the U.S. Freedmen Project out there in New York. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much in the news. If you have any comments in the replay, put it down there. As always, please like and share and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And I understand sometimes we go through a lot, you know, on our daily lives as individuals. But I'd say appreciate life daily, because tomorrow is never promised. All right. And always do your best. On that note, everybody have a great day. Peace and reparations to you and your family. And that is in the news.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations.
I had no idea that that church I was running by every day was something my grandfather established.
This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of its time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the Descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Overnight, it's like, oh, it's no longer the quarters, now it's Lincoln Heights. Oh, so now we get to use Abraham Lincoln for our name. And you think about all the other people that they could have used, but they picked Lincoln. And I think that's sort of a stereotypical of what they do.
There wasn't any black restaurants. As far as black business and weed, it wasn't none.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Why has it been easier for other groups than us?
Because of anti-black hatred.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR room, don't tune in.